Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a seriously fascinating literary journey. We're going to explore how the incredibly diverse tears, the joys, and the deeply complex philosophies of the entire Indian subcontinent get woven together into one single unified language. We're looking at a truly monumental effort of translation and cultural preservation, and discovering how one specific journal managed to bring the soul of a whole nation straight into the Maithili language.
So, let's dive right into this massive undertaking by asking ourselves a pretty fundamental question. How exactly do you capture the heartbeat of an entire subcontinent in just one language? It's really a question of how language acts as both this formidable, tricky barrier, but also a deeply unifying bridge. I mean, when you've got hundreds of dialects and regional languages out there, figuring out how to share those raw human experiences, that becomes a giant, complex puzzle.
And that's where the Videha e-journal comes in. Led by Gajendra Thakur, this project is really the foundation of our whole exploration today, and what it does is honestly remarkable. It basically takes incredibly emotional, hyper-regional literature from literally all corners of India and translates it directly into Maithili. Instead of letting these brilliant stories stay isolated in their native tongues, Videha totally transforms them into this incredible shared literary heritage.
Section 1. Innocence, Faith, and Terror.
Okay, so in Vempali Sharif's Telugu short story, Jumma, we see how everyday, routine religious devotion gets suddenly and violently fractured by an act of terrorism. The psychological contrast here is just heartbreaking. On one side, you have a mother's traditional stance, right? A strict religious guidance where she insists her son absolutely must not skip his Friday prayers. She dresses him up, sends him off with total, absolute faith. But then, the Mecca Masjid bombings happen in Hyderabad. And that same deeply faithful mother, she experiences this sheer, panic-stricken terror. Her entire fundamental belief system is completely upended by the sudden threat of violence.
The visceral power of these translated lines literally forces us to experience the horror of that blast directly through this mother's frantic, protective tears. When her son asks her over the phone about the explosion, she doesn't start talking about politics. She talks about small children. She talks about blood. She even mentions the innocent pigeons that died at the mosque. And the translation into Maithili perfectly preserves this raw, universal desperation. You know, that desperation of a parent who is just trying to keep their child alive in a totally unpredictable world. Section 2. Voices of the Soil.
Now we're shifting from the urban landscape right into the rural farmlands with Anavaram Devender's devastating Telugu poem Intim Shot, which translates to the final word. This is the harrowing farewell of a farmer pushed to the absolute brink of suicide. He's speaking to his wife Lakshmi about this crushing burden that he just can no longer carry, and he actually compares his creditors to the god of death. The translation here is amazing because it completely captures the profound exhaustion and that inescapable despair of a man who feels that leaving this world is literally his only remaining option.
So, the crucial takeaway here is that this tragedy isn't just about a lack of rain or one single bad harvest. It's a total systemic failure. We're looking at a domino effect. Rampant use of fake seeds completely destroying yields, devastating pests consuming whatever is left, crippling financial loans piling up, and then relentless harassment and societal shame from debt collectors. The poetry outlines exactly how these intersecting pressures slowly strip away a farmer's dignity and ultimately his will to live. It's a massive socioeconomic crisis, beautifully but tragically rendered in diverse.
Section 3. Aging and Abandonment. Transitioning away from the tragedy of the fields, we move to the quiet tragedy of the family home, confronting the harsh realities of aging. Through Bikari Thakur's Bhojpuri poetry, which, again, has been painstakingly brought into Maithili, we witness a really painful social shift. His verses capture the deep isolation of the elderly, people who find themselves totally abandoned by their own children after a literal lifetime of hard work and sacrifice. The poetry basically warns society that without structural support, like old age homes, the final years of human life are just reduced to insult and neglect. It's a striking commentary on how modernization so often leaves the most vulnerable behind.
Section 4. Translating the poetic Saul.
Now you might be wondering, how do they actually do this? Because it is a monumental philosophical challenge to translate these visceral, soulful original works without losing their essence. I mean, how do you move a tear, a sigh, or a really specific cultural nuance from one language to another? Well, in an essay discussing the translation of the great poet Suryakant Tripathi, widely known as Nirala, writer Ravi Bhushan Pathak argues that literal, word-for-word translation, it simply doesn't work for profound literature. If you just swap out a Telugu word for a Maithili word, the soul of the poem basically dies on the page. The actual solution to that translation problem is found in a concept known as parakaya pravesh. To truly translate poetry, the translator must perform this act, which effectively means entering another's body and soul. The translator literally has to become a literary vessel. They have to feel the original author's exact heartbeat, their deep pain, and their unique rhythm, just to carry it safely across the gap into a completely new language. And the sheer scale and ambition of the Videha journal is staggering when you consider the source languages they're working with. Telugu, Odia, Gujarati, Bhojpuri, and Kashmiri. These represent vastly different geographies, histories, and cultural rhythms. Yet, through that rigorous, deeply empathetic process of translation, they're all pooled into one unified target, the Maithili language. It's really an extraordinary gathering of diverse voices finally finding a shared home. As we wrap up our explainer today, take a moment to reflect on the timeless tension of human connection. We've seen stories of a mother's sheer terror, a farmer's absolute despair, and the deep loneliness of the elderly, translated from all over India. And it leaves us with a really profound question to ponder. If voices from such vastly different corners of a massive subcontinent share the exact same pain, the exact same love, and the exact same struggles, aren't linguistic barriers just an illusion hiding a universally shared human soul? Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.